We live in an age of outrage, and I'm certain you know people personally that are living examples of that moniker for our times. Their sensitivity on a hair trigger, just waiting to be offended. And when they run out of things to be outraged by personally, they get outraged for other people. It's outrage transference, which brings us to the NFL team, the Washington Redskins, and the current outrage on behalf of Native Americans about the team name. You know, I almost fell for this argument. The argument is that the name Redskins is a racial slur and highly offensive to the nation's 2.7 million Native Americans. By the way, it's not just the Washington Redskins who are feeling the heat from those who would angrily advocate for the proud minority group. There are 62 high schools across America who use the name Redskins for their sports teams, including Neshaminy High School just outside of Philadelphia and Conrad High in Wilmington. Those schools stood up to pressure to change the team names. Other schools gave in to the politically correct, including the University of Miami in Ohio, who used to be the Redskins. Now they're the REDHAWKS. Same thing with Parsippany High School in New Jersey. They used to be the Redskins. Now it's the Parsippany REDHAWKS. Over a dozen colleges and almost 30 high schools across the country have caved to the pressure. And by the way, there are a lot of teams named after Native Americans. There's the Indians, Braves, Warriors, Chiefs. St. John's University used to be the Red Men, but they changed that name because of both racial and gender sensitivity, which I kind of get. I mean, the St. John's women's teams don't want to be called the Red Men, and the Red People or the Red Gender Nonspecific just doesn't quite work. And now all the pressure is on the Washington Redskins to change its name. The organization and its owner, Dan Snyder, have been called racist for refusing. The furor over this story has gotten ridiculous. There have been protests. Congress got involved. Players and celebrities have been pushing for a name change. Now, I have taken a position on this, although I don't think it should be a national priority. I mean, given ISIS, our crumbling infrastructure, and a record-setting national debt. But I am on the record saying that we, and by we I mean non-Native Americans, don't get to decide if Redskins is a racial slur. They do, meaning Native Americans. If they are offended by the word, if they are outraged, then the name needs to change. I still feel that way. However, I've changed my position on the name change. Let me explain. The Washington Post recently did a poll and asked over 500 Native Americans from every state in the union this question: do you find the nickname Redskins offensive? 90% said no. 90%! You can't get more overwhelming than that. And this is the Washington Post, one of the most liberal papers in the country. Believe me, they did the poll expecting the exact opposite result. The Washington Post also asked Native Americans about the mascot for the Cleveland Indians, or that chant they do during Atlanta Braves games. Does that bother Native Americans? 73% said not at all. Another 19% said not so much. That's 92% who really aren't that offended. In fact, many of the Native Americans said during the interviews that they saw the nickname and the imagery as a tribute. So wait a second. If the vast majority of Native Americans aren't bothered by this, and some even kind of like it, then who is outraged? The people who ran out of things to be outraged about in their own lives and went in search for groups to be outraged for. They are the rebels without a cause, or maybe make them the meddlers in search of a cause. They want to feel enlightened, holier than thou, and then they advocate for people who don't even want to be advocated for. The amazing thing is that nobody even asked Native Americans until now, which calls into question every single case of outrage transference. The Washington Redskins, of course, should keep their name, their mascot, their emblem. And as for the rest of us, we should save our moral advocacy for those who want it. But I doubt that's going to happen in the age of outrage. I'm Larry Menti. See you again next week.